Welcome to Musicians Peer Support, everybody. Today we are welcoming back Jon Altham. Jon, I'm giving it up to you. Thank you so much for doing this Artist Blueprint series for us. Everybody watching the replay, if you're watching at the end of 2025, we're still continuing this class on Sundays through the end of January 2026. So come see us Sundays, 3 p.m. Eastern, in January of 2026. And thank you for watching the replay. Please comment, subscribe, like, share, do all those things that you can do or you would like to do. Support us. Also, the website is artistsblueprint.com. Please check that out. And our website is musicianspeersupport.com. Today, what is the topic of discussion? Before we get into the topic of discussion, I mean, it's hard to wrap up because we've had so many weeks. Um, but I think it's safe to say that if you watch all the prior weeks and you start to kind of digest it, it brings us to a point of um, looking at our value a little bit differently and worth, and really revisiting maybe how we have made decisions in the past and how we might make decisions in the future, and kind of cause us to maybe come up with some more existential questions when it comes to our values, beliefs, what we align with, our goals, financial or otherwise. So to me, it seems like where I'm at right now in terms of what I'm studying is it's a reevaluation of myself and my path. Um, so are there any key kind of bullet points that you want us to remember moving forward before we dig into this week?
Um, for chapter 5 specifically, yeah, I mean, we can briefly go back onto the key takeaways if that's helpful. Um, the real thing really is, for today in particular, we're now moving away from, the awareness and foundation and the stuff that we've built to date. And hopefully, the last chapter on the deal blueprint kind of gave you a bit more clarity in terms of how those deals are structured and what it means in terms of leverage, control, and how you seek clarity. Um, and this one is specifically focused on systems. So how do we build that? What does that actually look like in practice? Um, and how can we make it repeatable, reliable, and scalable as a result? Because they're your three things that you really need to focus on moving forward.
Excellent.
Mm.
Okay, sounds really great. So what is the topic of discussion today, Jon?
So the topic of discussion is the artist operating system, or the AOS. It's basically turning how purpose becomes process, and then how process then therefore then creates freedom off the back of that. As with every chapter to date, there is a diagram within this chapter. However, there's a bonus one, so there's two in this one, which we can go through in a bit of detail. So before we start, I'll just quickly go over the key takeaways from the last one and then dive straight in if you're happy with that.
That sounds
Oh,
great. Thank you.
wicked. So yeah, the takeaways for the prior chapter, the deal blueprint was a deal is a relationship, not a rescue. Balance value, control, and time. Seek clarity before commitment. Compromise with purpose, never from pressure. The calm negotiator holds the real power and build partnerships that grow with you. And the other thing within this, of course, and we touched on this with ownership and leverage prior, is, it's all well and good having leverage, but make sure that you also lead in business ethically. Yeah. Integrity is a massive, massive part of and ultimately, think of that capital stack. The relational aspect of that is very, very important. If that falls apart, whilst people may be able to bully their way through deals initially, actually that'll end up falling away over time because people won't want to work with you in the future. So the integrity part is really, really important, in the business. So I'll share my screen now. Okay. And this is going straight into 6. Okay, from vision to design. Freedom without systems eventually collapses. Every artist, company, or movement runs on an operating system, a set of routines, values, and decisions that hold everything together when chaos tries to take over. The artist operating system, or AOS, is a way of thinking, how you translate purpose into process and process into peace. An artist who understands their operating system does not wake up wondering what to do next. They already know where their energy belongs. They are not reactive to the industry, they're responsive to their own design. There are four key components to the AOS. These are revenue systems, team structure, workflow and automation, and finally reporting. We're going to break those down into even more detail in a second. Each component strengthens the other. When they align, you create consistency. When one weakens, rest strain to carry the weight. Firstly, revenue systems. Your revenue system is how money moves through your creative life. It includes how you generate income, but also how you collect it and how you allocate it. A healthy revenue system has three qualities. Firstly, transparency. You know where your money comes from and where it goes. Secondly, predictability. You can project income and plan expenses with confidence. And finally, protection. Your rights and royalties are secured by process, not trust. Without a clear revenue system, even the most successful artists end up struggling. Income without infrastructure is chaos designed as progress. Moving on to team structure. No artist builds alone. Your team is your first company. It might begin as one or two people, but it will shape every decision that you make. Your team should mirror your values. Skill does matter, but alignment matters more. And surround yourself with people who understand your vision and protect your calm. Simple rule for teams. Clarity before chemistry. Define roles before you fill them. Decide what each person owns, what they deliver, and how you communicate. And when structure is clear, collaboration feels effortless. And just to tie into the prior chapter about the deal blueprint, and we briefly touched on artist managers and their role within the industry, the key word there was stewardship. Stewardship is very, very important. And we can dive into, again, what that word means in detail. If you were to write anything about what your team should do, stewardship is very, very key there. Thirdly, workflow and automation. Workflow is the rhythm of your process. It turns creativity into consistency. Automation supports that rhythm by handling the repetitive work that drains your focus. You do not need to be technical to automate. Start with small actions. You could automate your royalty reports or invoices. You could use templates for contracts or pitch decks. You could schedule time blocks for creation, admin, and recovery. Automation is not cold, compassionate. It protects your time so your attention can return to what matters most. And finally, in reporting. Reporting is how you measure progress and prevent drift. It does not have to be complex. A simple monthly review of your revenue, rights, and reach will show you what is working and what is not. Ask yourself three questions every month. What grew? What stayed still? And what needs to repair? What you measure improves, what you ignore. Building systems around values. Systems are most effective when they serve your values, not the other way around. Before designing your own AOS, define the principles that guide it. Ask yourself, what kind of work gives me energy? What kind of people do I want around me? And what kind of impact do I want my art to have? Answers shape your operating system. Your system supports your peace and purpose. You'll never ever feel restrictive. The goal is not to work more efficiently, work more intentionally. Creativity thrives on rhythm, not routine. Rhythm is flexible but reliable. It gives structure without confinement. Design your weeks like a balanced composition. Create space for focus, rest, exploration, and review. Protect those spaces with the same commitment you bring to the performance or release. When your time has rhythm, your energy has direction. In the first diagram, in rhythm, consists of 4 parts: passion, skill, focus, and voice. And in the middle, your vision. The key takeaway here is clarity is rhythm, rhythm is peace. So, what is passion? Well, that is what inspires you and energizes you. Skill, that enables and empowers you. Focus, that directs and defines you. And your voice reflects and resonates your vision. The role of reflection. Reflection is often missing from artistic business models. In the rush to create and release, there's little time or space to step back and evaluate. But reflection is what turns experience into wisdom. Schedule reflection as part of your workflow. Ask yourself what worked, what felt right, and what did not. Something consistently causes stress. It does not belong in your system. Reflection is not indulgence, maintenance. Scaling calm. The more you grow, the more you'll be tempted to move faster. The AOS is how you scale without chaos. It lets you expand output while protecting your peace. Growth should never cost your well-being. If your system can't sustain you, it cannot sustain success. When your structure is stable, opportunities multiply because people trust consistency. And the next diagram, the 12-month operating plan that we briefly touched on in one of the questions in the first or second chapters that we covered. Split this down into 4 parts, each quarter of the year, to really break down the key things that we really should be looking at. First, audit and structure in Q1. In Q2, systems and scale. Q3, your revenue and your rights. And in 4, legacy and review. And as I mentioned prior in the chapters, the reason why I put that at 4 is because as we come to the end of the year, which is nicely in keeping with where we are now, it's a really, really nice time to step back and reflect and before we go into the new year again. Your roadmap to clarity, structure, and growth. Technology is a tool, not as a crutch. Technology can enhance your operating system, but it should never replace awareness. No platform or app can think for you. Tools are extensions of clarity, not substitutes for it. Use technology to track, automate, and connect. Always stay present. Your greatest asset, still your mind. An artist operating system is also a leadership system. It teaches you how to lead yourself before leading others. You set the tone. If you're disorganized, the team will mirror that. If you're calm and consistent, others will match that energy. Self-leadership is not control, it's awareness. It is knowing when to push and when to pause. Your AOS is not just about how you work, it's about how you live. So, the key takeaways. Freedom requires systems. Artist operating system translates purpose into process. Build around revenue, team, workflow, and reporting. Structure should reflect your values, not replace them. Reflection and rhythm create long-term stability. And growth without calm is not success. It is burnout in disguise. The AOS is not fixed by design. It will evolve as you do. Treat it like a living composition, one that keeps your art, your peace, and your purpose in harmony. I'm going to leave it
Yeah, that's really great. Lots to
there.
unpack, I guess is the word people say in that case, I guess. You have 3 really cool graphics that I'd like to just briefly look back at. Um, but before we do that, let's just briefly mention stewardship, um, which I really love that you talk about, and I think it could be talked about more in the music industry. When sometimes in the religious world they talk about stewardship. Um, in this case, you're stewarding something. What is it that you're stewarding? Can you just zoom in a little bit on what that stewardship really means? Maybe somebody's new to that word. I don't know.
Sure. It's effectively the way I see it is um you're like guiding something, right? And it's either a vision, a shared mission or goal, or equally in this case, an asset. So a lot of the time, stewardship comes up in charity work or philanthropic endeavors. For example, outside of the music sector, I sit on two charity boards, and my role there is to you've got to abide by a lot of specific public life principles. But a lot of that is being able to kind of direct and guide an organization in its best interest for everyone involved, and to take your own involvement and interest out the way of that completely. And to bring that into the music sector, why I mean specifically for teams, why that's so important, particularly artist managers, is because often, in the chase for that next record being the hit and the record label deals and getting signed to a publisher, you do have this kind of, in my opinion, a conflict of interest that arises where it does benefit the team, all members of the team, for you to get the deal that creates the revenue coming through first, right? Because it then retains them, whether that be your artist manager or otherwise. However, ultimately, you to take that deal and to get that advance may not actually be in the best interest of your assets or your portfolio, later down the line. So the point really being with stewardship is that you know they all have this fiduciary duty, or actually by contract a fiduciary duty, which is to act in the best interests of the artists that they're looking after. And I think that can actually be refined as to a better word, as this, they have a fiduciary duty to be a steward to the asset and the portfolio direction in which you wish to push your career down. And as part of that, that is, the discussions that then need to be had at a team level isn't always is this the right record label deal, but it's more about, well, how does this align with you and where this needs to go? That's proper stewardship. Um, does this align with, your exit plan in 25 years' time, or are we too busy concentrating and we're not even thinking about that? We're thinking about we've just signed an artist management agreement for 1 or 2 years. I need cash now. That's a completely different kind of focus on where your head's at, right? So this is where stewardship is really, really important. It's about having a long-term mindset and putting the organization, the asset, the portfolio, the person, in the case of the artist, ahead of everything else, and representing their best interests and coming at it in a completely grounded way. Um, so that you're assisting them and helping them to make the best decision for them and their career.
Wow. Great. Really, really well said. And thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Clarity is rhythm, and rhythm is peace. A lot of
Mm,
artists can relate to that. Um, Reflection is maintenance. That's something that's really great to hear. Um, I remember I'm just reminded of my audio engineer buddies, Big Lou, Big Unlimited, and Nico, the just our mixing engineer community, and
mm.
how it's a tough job and you need to maintain things. And sometimes reflection isn't exactly something that you put on the maintenance list, um, but well-being is, and growth is not, should not be at the cost of well-being, is one point that you also bring up.
Yeah.
And
Ultimately, it falls apart otherwise. Yeah.
it
It's
sounds like, okay, that makes sense, like duh, but then when you really think about it, in the small decisions of an artist's career, you do have to remind yourself of that sometimes. And then technology as being a tool, not a crutch, which are just some things that I just, wrote down that I really loved about it. But you did have three graphics, John. If we can just briefly pull those up again and zoom in just a little bit if we can, just to make sure everybody understands that and just give us a last look at those graphics if we can.
The other note is I imagine there's probably some questions in there as to, well, what is my actual AOS, right? And as we mentioned, that could be anything from an initial to-do list or project management system. Is there another reason why I put the workbooks together? And that is at its core the most foundational AOS that you can have. Um, and that's all completed now, and all the way from first chapter all the way to the end. And the idea being is that hopefully it allows you to reflect and have clarity as to where your career is going. Um, and have those options from a stewardship perspective of like, okay, how well aligned am I with that? As an artist, you actually have your own responsibility to steward your own assets that you're creating. Right? It seems weird. You've almost got to split yourself into almost two personas in a way. You've got the artistic side, which is the performer, and then you've got the business side. And that business side is stewarding the assets that you're creating on your performing side of, or side of your brain. So yeah, it's really, really important. So I would highly encourage the workbooks to kind of kick that off, or at least get the reflections going. Um, so yes, the staying in rhythm, which is the first one. I know there's another diagram after this. Any questions on this to begin with?
Thank you for that. Yeah, anybody in the room, please feel free to type in your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand if you'd like. That's one of the benefits of being here. So please feel free. Don't be shy. Um, I don't have any questions off the top of my head, but I really do like how vision is at the center. Um, and I guess just why that is because sometimes people come at it from one of the corners. I want to do music because of just one of these things in the corners. Sometimes it's from the vision, but just can you explain why you have it this way, that vision's in the middle and the other four on the outside?
Yeah, absolutely. Because ultimately it comes from your foundation. So you build your foundation and your principles up first, and you know what aligns and what doesn't. The point being with this is quite often we think, oh, well, to get to here, I need to learn more on the piano or production or whatever. Well, actually, might end up going down a rabbit hole for months on end, which is completely polar to where your vision's actually going. Um, and actually, it might not be that beneficial at all. So the point being is that, if you do need to learn a new skill, cool, great, but do it in line with the vision that you're currently working towards or your long-term vision, and then it's actually always going to be aligned. The same with your voice as well. That's not just kind of, your tone and equally your artistic voice. Um, to me, that also means the voice in which you share to others in the world, right? So how you interact with everyone, super, super important. Um, you know, just because you perform in this way, don't lose track of the voice that got you there to begin with and where that clarity came from. And I think if it's that classic I was saying, treat others how you wish to be treated. That's really where this comes from there. If you wish to go somewhere with your vision, and you want to build a collaborative and supporting team as you get there, then ensure that your voice is also grounded and it isn't compounded with ego, because otherwise, as I mentioned in this chapter, your team is going to be a mirror of the character that um, you are to your core or building. Yeah. Um, Same with focus. the point here is that there's going to be times, particularly as interest increases, where you're going to be pulled in lots of different directions. You're going to get this new shiny object that's going to come through, and it's going to look like the best deal ever. Ultimately, the power to say no when it doesn't align with your vision is really, really important because it allows you to stay in rhythm with what you're actually doing. Now, it might be very, very difficult to say no because it's like, oh, this new shiny object. The reality is, for you to have got that opportunity to begin with, you're clearly doing something right. So don't be distracted by it. They'll always still call you, and just carry on doing what you're doing because it's clearly working. Um, that would be my kind of takeaway and advice from that perspective. And ultimately, what you'll find out is as you continue to compound your focus in line with your vision and what you're doing, you probably didn't need the deal to begin with. You can probably just crack on your own, or you'd be able to leverage it in a slightly different way that does then align with your vision. Um, so you could say, well, it's an interesting opportunity that comes through. No, I'm not focused. So this has happened. Yeah, a lot. All of this comes from frameworks that I've built around me, right? Um, and I get a lot of different opportunities coming through all the time. I say no to everything, um, pretty much. And but what's interesting is that. Um, what I will say to those that are really, really interesting partners, I'll say, look, no, I can't do this because my focus is X. This is what I'm currently looking for, and this is my focus. Now, if you have anything that aligns with that, let's then build on that moving forward. So then they know moving forward, it's not just a no, we're not going to be in contact. It's a no, I love what you do. This is what my current focus is if you want to add me to your CRM or whatever database that you have, and you put a little tag next to me which says, look, John is interested in XYZ, perfect. Because then when something suitable comes along, they'll know exactly who to contact rather than it being a little bit wishy-washy. Um, and that transparency is really, really important because it allows everyone to know where you stand, with both the deals that you take, and accept and those that you won't. And there's nothing wrong with that. And actually, I've found that the quality of the deal flow that comes through as a result of that is far superior because they know exactly what I'm looking for. And it makes for better relationships actually as well, because you ensure that it's really, really aligned before you ever get on that phone call, which is fantastic. Um,
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's very empowering. Go ahead.
mm. And then finally, passion. I think sometimes passion can be a little bit of a distraction at times because it can take you down a bit of a false path. Um, you've got to navigate it quite carefully, and it's that way up between that business side of you and then the creative side of you as well. You've got to be a little bit careful with passion, but equally, when things are at its most difficult, sometimes that's the one thing that really energizes you and inspires you to keep going rather than anything else. Everything could be falling apart, but you're like, you know what, this is all I ever want to do, and it still feels aligned with me, so I'm going to crack on and do it. Um, so this is why I kind of brought all four parts of it in, because at parts of your career, it tends to touch on all of these at different phases, if not all of them at all the same time.
Right. And that having this type of graphic can help, I don't know what the word is, just maybe kind of hone in on the vision, um,
Yeah.
and kind of purpose, and it's just very validating for me because I've said no to things, like a lot of things. I feel like what is a lot of things in my, I don't know, just, and I kind of felt bad, like, geez, am I denying myself of opportunities? Like, it's definitely a weird feel. It has in the past historically been a weird feeling, but reading your book like this and getting this perspective, I'm starting to realize that that was me finding out who I am and
Mm.
figuring out what that alignment was and like, just kind of using my gut, deciding, oh, well, maybe that doesn't resonate with me. And I don't know that something's telling me not to do that. And I, mentally cannot focus on that because I only have capacity for this. So yeah, this is all really great stuff. Clarity is rhythm, rhythm is peace. I love that. Um,
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
the other note on that actually is that it doesn't just have to be about your career. As with everything in this, it's very multi-layered, and it was written that way on purpose. But the same with, all the diagrams as well, particularly this one. Your vision doesn't necessarily just have to be you as your artist and your career and where you want to go. It can also be as dialed down into a specific record that you're producing that day. What are the skills that are required? What's the passion? Is that pushing you forward? The voice and tone and how it resonates, and then the focus, who you're saying yes to, who you're not saying, who you're saying no to, is really, really important in order to get that across the line and deliver. So yeah, very, very multi-layered. You can pretty much use that diagram in anything.
Like a goal driven. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
great. Really, really nice. Um, yes, and Gretchen says, really appreciate your holistic perspective on this. I agree.
Mm.
And then you had
Thank you.
another graphic.
Yeah, the
Yes.
12-month
Okay.
operating plan.
Yes.
Mm.
And this can be books. I mean, you could write a book on this. Um,
It will be probably.
you're right. Um, And so I don't want to spend too much time because I know we have about 22 minutes left. I don't want to spend a crazy amount of
Mm.
time on this, but I do want to speak about this. Oh, and then we also have the workbook that I would love for you to just go over.
Oh.
So, okay, I'm just gonna kind of throw in a little bit of an MPS flair into this. So, for example, you're just dabbling into this. You're not like super, you haven't decided if you wanted music to be a career yet,
Mhm.
or something like that maybe. You can just kind of look at this and see this might be a possible path for you. That if that's something that you might consider, there's something like this that exists that if this, resonates with you and it makes sense to you, you could follow this and not be in like um, you know, just like a loop like we talked about in the prior chapters. But this is something that people can look forward to, I guess is maybe what I want to say. But also, if you already have your music business set up at all levels, you can apply this into a new system to further your efficiency, which would increase your leverage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this you can take this at whatever level you're at.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. And the joy of it is, and I know this really speaks to it being a little bit more operational for an artist that's building up their career, and has, lots of things that they need to audit. But at the early stages, it's still the same. With the audit, it's more a case of auditing your processes and what you've got available to you. Is it that we go back to the guitarist from prior examples that we had, right? Learning the guitar, want to go through grades or what have you before we go to the next phase. Again, kind of auditing where you're at in terms of that process. Is it working? The teachers that I'm learning from, is that helpful? Is there any equipment that I might need to kind of help me get there from a
This could
structural perspective? Gone.
this could be something like, okay, I know how to play by ear and I
Mhm.
know a bunch of pop tunes, but I don't know how to read music and I want to write my own songs now. So, like
Yeah.
where that audit could also just look like musically, where am I at in relation to where I want to be maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got the structure around that, which is okay. Well, to get there, what is my current structure? Was I learning once a week? Was I only putting an hour aside a week, whatever that may be? Cool. If I want to get to, and how far have I got with that over the last year? Okay, if I want to get to such and such grade or want to achieve whatever, what other structure do I need to put in place? Do I need to put more time aside to do that? Is there anything specific that I need to learn? Do I need to watch specific videos in order to get better at a finger picking style, for example? For guitar, whatever that may be. integrate that into your structure to make it more reliable and more consistent. Um, because compounding is like, what do they say? It's like the seventh wonder of the world. It literally is. It's the same with financing, everything. Compounding is so important and massively underrated. So, the point being with this is as you get that structure and you get that clarity, your ability to compound your skills, and that align with your foundation is so much higher. And as a result, it's much easier to get where you need to go and faster, because you don't get distracted. And then with Q2, you then got your systems. You're then able to then scale that because it becomes easier to do. And equally, it's that reflection point on, are you able to scale it? If not, why not? And how can I get there? And then with three, revenue. For um, your example of the learning the guitar here, use that as just finance broadly. It can be, how much are the lessons costing? Are we happy with that? Maybe it doesn't align financially. Do I need to find someone else? Or actually, maybe I want to invest more in this because I'm clearly learning a lot from it and it's worthwhile paying, extra for another year in order to get to where I need to go. Rights is obviously for outside of that, and a different stage of your career. And then finally, legacy. That's really zooming out. Where do I want to go? And then reviewing a final reflection at the end of the year. Am I happy with what I've achieved? What went well? What didn't go well? And what broke as a result of it? And how can I build on that? So it's not about, being harsh on yourself either. It's about, being very honest and having accountability. And accountability and integrity are the two most important characteristics, I think.
Yeah. So do give yourself grace and flexibility. Um,
Yeah.
I really do appreciate that last comment. Okay, so looks like no questions. So let's move on to the next graphic. And then, John, I would love to hear about your worksheet for this chapter because I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's a big one.
Um, and then I thought about maybe we'll take a pause, um, but we'll see maybe talk about sometime in 2026 doing a workbook workshop series. Um,
That'd be interesting.
so we'll talk about that though, a little bit of a teaser that I thought about the other day. Okay, so there was a third one, right?
No, it's just the two graphics on this
Okay,
one.
perfect. So we can get straight into the workbook.
Yeah, we can.
So the workbook is found, everybody, on artistsblueprint.com. By the way, everybody, thank you so much for listening. John, we do have people listening on YouTube, some who are only listening, whether they're visually impaired or not. People only listen. So I do like to spell out the name of the website for anybody who really needs it, which is artistsblueprint.com, ARTISTS, blueprint, BLUEPRINT.com, and musicianspeersupport.com also. But please visit artistsblueprint.com because you're going to find the resources. If you do artistsblueprint.com/volume dash one, ONE, one word, one the word, I mean, you'll find some resources. So just go to artistblueprint.com. But everybody, you can also email me, mps at musicianspeersupport.com, if you missed anything that I said, if you have any other questions. Also, people watching the replay, you can look at the comments to find these links. And please comment and tell us that you watched this and let us know. John is also fielding questions on X, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. So you can feel free to ask questions over there. But yes, thank you so much for putting in the time and energy to devise these worksheets for us. Um, this is a very valuable resource, so thank you.
So this is also, I know they were split up before, but this is now all in one succinct book. 51 pages for a workbook is a lot, but super, super important. It goes through literally everything. So, chapter 6, the AOS. So let's blitz through this. Why structure, not effort, determines consistency and scale. So, as with everything, there's about, I think, 5 pages for this specifically. Um, your reality checklist to begin with. Really, really important. It kind of grounds it out to right off the bat. Is it that you lack visibility on your progress? Your workflow changes every week. You rely on memory instead of documentation, or you make decisions in isolation rather than via rules or your foundational principles, right? So take any that align with you. That includes other where you can write other bits as well. Um, and it's again the key thing here is it's not a case of to make you feel like you're doing anything wrong. It's about accountability and understanding where you are in your career and your positioning. Yeah, just gonna be completely honest with where you're at because you'll get a lot more out of it that way as well. Then your maturity score here. Um, One is it's absent, and then five, it's fully implemented. And it doesn't mean maturity in terms of yourself or your career. It means maturity in terms of your artist operating system. So that is kind of your output tracking in terms of your assets, how you're tracking your deals, your review cadence, how often you're reviewing, your portfolio and where you want to be, and equally, decision rules as well, which is really, really important. By rules, what I mean in this is as effectively. They're frameworks or principles that you build in that allow you to get to a decision faster. Um, a decision rule is knowing, if it's your foundation, knowing whether it aligns with you, yes or no, straight away. And then as a result, you're able to field these deals as they come through and know what aligns and what doesn't, and how to say no, but maybe keep the door open for opportunities in the future. You can do that a variety of different ways. That could be a written kind of thing. You could even then implement technology into that by, if you're particularly good with prompting of, bots or AI, for example, you might be able to prompt a project area and then you put your foundational principles with that, and it will allow you to you can prime them in a way that you could field a deal into that or, a scenario and say, well, does this really align with my career and where I'm going to go? And it can easily say either explore it, reject it, or accept it. And that can be quite an easy way of being able to use technology to help you with your decision rules there. So I threw that in as a bit of a curveball, but that's what these decision rules mean. Are you able to say yes or no, and at what scale? Um, your current operating system, right? The truth. What is it? What does it consist of? And would you like it to improve in another way? So taking it from a written note onto a project management system like Asana or Monday or um, system gaps. Tick all the missing components within your operating stack. Is that a weekly planning kind of ritual or a decision filter, as I said prior, or a contract tracker? Or negotiation prep system. That could be a little thing that you read before you go into a negotiation onto a Zoom call or whatever that may be. And it could even be a little bit motivational to give you the confidence, whatever that means. Or it could be very structured. It could be, these are my non-negotiables. This is what I'm happy with. And this is how I'm going to guide the conversation. So again, it's that framework that's super, super important. It helps you prepare because the more prepared you are, the more clarity that you have allows you to be calm. And the one that tends to win the negotiation is the calmest in the room. Um, yeah, impact. What's the largest gap that you currently have, and what's that effect on the output of your portfolio or your performance? And then what's the effect on your income as a result of that? Your reliability score. Assess how dependable your operating system is under pressure. Does it survive busy periods? What about when you're low on motivation? Another financial stressor. Are you able to rebound quickly? If not, do we need to update the operating system to support you with that? And does it survive negotiations? Does it survive failure and success? And does it survive scalability on how you expand your career? It needs to meet each of these. And not to, this isn't here to overwhelm you too much. It's just more a case of the reflection point on, is this thing I've built, this system, is it sustainable moving forward? And it might be right for now, but again, at the end of the year, when you come to review and reflect, what do you need to do and bolt on next year, or even remove to make it better for you? Quite often, I find removing is better than adding things on. A little bit of a tip. I keep it as simple as possible. Um, for AOS components, again, defining the output metrics, your weekly targets, and the decision rule sets that you've got as a result of that. How you're going to say yes and no. The tracking tool that you use, is that Asana? Is it Trello? Is it whatever? Is it the workbooks? Is it your own stuff that you're producing? Your own to-do list? Name it. And then when you come to do this workbook again a year from now or at your next audit cycle, it'll be interesting to see how that changes. And then your input process and output, again, going through and locking in that system um, for you. So this is really a case of taking this chapter and starting to create an operating system for yourself. Um, then your failure modes. When your system fails, it fails because why? What are the early warning signals that you'll watch for? And what's the corrective action that you're going to do when that signal appears? For example, your system fails and it fails because it's not able to sustain you when there's pressure and there's stress and there's financial stresses. What's the early warning sign that you'll watch for? Maybe when your revenue hits below a certain target and then you're maybe having to dip into emergency funds. That's the first maybe your early warning sign. It could be that you're burnt out. What's the corrective action when that appears? It could be that I need to find some alternative source of revenue. I might need to scale my costs back as a result of that so I can sustain my runway for longer. Or it could be, you know what, I just need to say no for a bit, have a little bit of me time, get back on my center, and then I continue again. Think of those traffic light systems, that red, amber, and then green in terms of go. And then your 30-day AOS upgrade in terms of what's the priority. Think about one thing. What's the priority thing that you're going to change? What's the reason? And how are you going to prove that you've implemented that to yourself? Um, and then at the end of that, you've got your snapshot, a high-level summary of each of those that you can then compare on year. And that's the same with each of the many chapters prior and equally to come.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Wow. So, what I am thinking forward to is um, because I personally would need some peer support when it comes to these workbooks.
Mhm.
Um, it does look different to everybody when you start assessing these things and you start answering these questions just because everybody's journey is so unique. That's why we have that carve your own path. And so maybe we'll talk about something where we do one a month over the course of 10 months. And we can watch the replay over that month and really take a whole month to fill out the one worksheet and then talk about it and answer questions. So I don't want to ask for a 10-month commitment from you now on the recording, but I'm just saying that I might be able to hold space for that because it's really, really helpful. That we would not be posting on YouTube, so thank you so much, everybody watching our YouTube channel. But that's definitely stuff to watch out for as part of being a member of Musicians Peer Support, not through any paywall or anything. But just that it's a safe space for artists, so we always just have our members sign up through the mailing list. Um, Before we start doing wrap up stuff, just want to make sure anybody in the room, if you have any questions on any of that, please feel free to type them in the chat. Also, John, any other kind of last final thoughts about this one? Because I feel like this one, yeah, we could really spend a lot of time talking about this week. Um, and it'll be a lot of reflection on my part to kind of go back and listen to it and read it, watch it. Also, everybody buy the book. The Artist's Blueprint, which is on the website. Please purchase that book. You don't have to. There's no requirement. You can do all of this for free, but it would be nice to purchase a book also. So please do that. Okay. So, John, any other thoughts or anything about what we talked about today? This was a really, really deep conversation
Yeah,
that
I
needs
like
to
the fact
be,
that,
I
that we
think we need
can.
to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, I like the fact that we can kind of dive in and then come all the way back out again, which is really nice. And no, I think we've covered a lot today, and without it being too much, I think this is we've reached a good point with it where maybe after this, take some time to go onto the website, specifically on the volume one aspect of the website, because the frameworks are on there as well as photos. So sometimes just having a look at that is quite helpful to summarize the chapters. And really, the whole point of this is that what I hope is that when a contract comes along or whatever it is, some of these diagrams and frameworks are something that you can write on the side of your page, whether that be that capital stack triangle, and that's all the visual that you'll need, or it's what we got today, which is that kind of cross with the vision in the center, and you're seeing whether you tick in all four quadrants of it. Little things like that that just allow you to be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm on track and I feel confident in terms of, taking this next step or whatever I need to go. And that's the purpose of this. You've got obviously the words that kind of then start prompting this out, the workbook that allows you to really deep dive if you want to. Um, but then you've got the frameworks that allow you to just look at it from a glance. And as I said, I'm very, very appreciative of those that wish to purchase the book. I'm very, very grateful for that. So thank you. But of course, you're welcome to listen to it for free as an audio book on Apple Podcasts, and equally access the free resources on the website too.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, John. So I think that's about it. We won't do any previews for next week. They'll just have to tune in. Also, just want to thank everybody for a really um, just an eventful 2025. You, John, and all of our musicians peer support members, those of you who are here now and just all across the world, we have a really amazing community. And I know some of us go way, way back, but some of us are new friends, and we welcome new people and new friends all the time. But the holidays, I get a bit nostalgic, and we're celebrating 5 years in January. So I just want to thank everybody watching and everybody out there. MPS has been such a blessing to me in my life. So thank you so much for all that. Anything else, John?
Do you want me to mention what the theme for next week is?
Sure.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to.
Okay.
Um, so we've obviously gone through the artist operating system today. We're talking about systems. The next one is growth. So we're really starting to arc now over the next couple of weeks into what this means for kind of impact and legacy and leadership. But this next chapter will be scaling and leadership, focusing on growth, and how do we lead projects or people without losing soul. That's the focus.
Yes,
It's a
amen.
nice one.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. Giving it up to you, Jon Altham. Thank you so much. And Deb and Gretchen, thank you for joining us in the room.
Yeah, thank you.
Really, really appreciate you. This will conclude the recording. I really appreciate you all watching the recording. Please like, share, subscribe, do all the things, comment. Visit us at musicianspeersupport.com/join to be on the mailing list, and go to artistsblueprint.com to get the book and the workbook. And we'll see you on the next one.